remind us and the perspective here. It is so dominant for the rest of the market. Yes, we might get a big swing in Nvidia up to 6% after hours, but it's important for the other AI names.
Yes, completely. And I would even go beyond that and say it's not just AI names. This is a stock that, because it dominates and because it is such the litmus test for AI, that actually it has the ability to hit sentiment more broadly. It's such a large component of the S&P 500. We've obviously seen a little bit of caution, actually, as we've been sort of coming into these results. There was that MIT report that just raised some questions about profitability, revenue growth surrounding sort of 95% of AI projects. And that did cause the market just to question, should we be up at these levels for AI stocks? And I think, that's why there is such a massive focus on these results, not only just with what Nvidia are doing, but what it does mean for the broader AI trade and tech more broadly.
Remind us, Fiona, Nvidia's 1 percentage point off a record high, $4.4 trillion market capitalization. How much positive sentiment is in the rest of the space, even after last week's vague sell-off in names such as Palantir?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, obviously, there is a lot of growth expectations, which are priced into these levels. We've talked about, forward guidance being the key figure to be watching in these results. And that's just so that the market can feel comfortable that the lofty levels we're trading at are indeed supported by some sort of fundamental. But I think, the fact is we are expecting potentially a beat from Nvidia. The question is by how much, what will that forward guidance be looking like? Will we continue to see that level of strong growth that we have seen? That's what the market wants to see. That's what investors want to see in order to remain upbeat about this trade. I mean, I do think longer term, strategically, we know that AI is a solid trade, but near term, we have seen that caution set in just as far as sentiment is concerned, obviously as far as geopolitical events are concerned and factors, and then also as far as that sort of slower model growth rollout might be concerned as well. So lots to be watching out for.
Yeah, Fiona, can you break down for us a little bit, just from the sentiment that you get from your own clients, but more broadly, how many people are long only and long-termly committed to this company? Or how many people are on the edges just trading it and could see, therefore, volatility in the name?
Yeah, so I mean, this is by far our most popular equity within our business. We've seen that the vast majority of clients are long on Nvidia. And we do see that, there is this longer term sense towards the stock as well. That is something in there. But you also do see a lot of the attempts to trade on that volatility. But, our clients are very keen on this. This is often the busiest day for us, one of the busiest days. And we do find that tomorrow there'll be a lot of conversation and sort of breaking down and unpacking what the results have been telling us as well. So, but, we do see that this is one of those rare stocks that we do see both the longer position holding as well as the intraday volatility gets the day traders as well.
And it's just so streets ahead of the competition in terms of just market capitalization. I mean, Broadcom is the only other chip maker out there that's above $1 trillion. When you think about AMD, it is but $250 billion in terms of market capitalization compared to Nvidia's, and we're not even going to talk about Intel's. But Fiona, have you seen any of your clients trying to hedge this? How have they been able to think about owning and being long Nvidia and protecting themselves from any downside?
Yeah, it's actually quite difficult to be able to sort of bring together a pure hedge on this, given the dominance that we do see in Nvidia. As you pointed out, you can do some hedging surrounding some competitors. Also, if you can get hold of those AI indices, then that could also work as a hedge. But I think, broadly speaking, it is quite difficult to be well hedged against the upside in Nvidia, just because, as you said, it just really is streaks ahead of competition, and there doesn't seem to be anyone really on its heels just yet. Obviously, we had those concerns at the beginning of the year about DeepSeek, but that hasn't really rolled out into something too dangerous as far as competition is concerned just yet. That's not to say it's not down the road, but just for now, it doesn't feel like there's too much snapping on Nvidia's heels.
I mean, isn't it interesting? Cambricon Technologies is a Chinese name. It's an AI accelerator developer themselves, making chips, and like Huawei is. They had phenomenal growth in their profitability. I mean, it has a much smaller market capitalization. But just going back to what we're discussing with Ian and their overhang of China, how important is that to you and the clients to hear about the future growth trajectory there?
That's, very important. I think, we can't sort of diminish how important that will be. That's going to be a key area that we'll be watching out for, because it does remain a key risk. And obviously that can then affect the valuation. It can affect what the growth outlook for Nvidia is. So I think that is definitely going to be one of the key factors that we'll be watching as it does present itself as a potential to really weigh or limit the upside as far as Nvidia's potential growth is concerned.
When you're thinking about Nvidia and the other industry groups this engulfs, I mean, you're just saying what the limiting factor actually for many is power. And I'm wondering how many of your clients are looking at Nvidia and feeling at this level they can't get in, or are they, and therefore looking to spread and diversify, or are still people very committed to buying in even at a $4.4 trillion market cap?
Yeah, do you know, there is still demand out there. We're still seeing demand out there, despite the fact that we are trading at, really impressive levels. But I do think we do still have this idea of the concept that this idea of the AI trade spreading out and diversifying. We've noticed that obviously Nvidia has been the standout performer here, but we are seeing that there have been sort of a strong growth in other areas as well. We've seen the rest of the AI stocks have performed well across the year, and I think there is potential for those to continue performing well on the back of upbeat results from Nvidia. So again, we keep coming back to that idea of, if Nvidia does well, then we see that trickle back down into the rest of that AI trade. If it doesn't, if we see a slight disappointment on that forward guidance, then potentially we could see that really reflecting badly on those other AI stocks as well. So yeah, that's what we'll be watching out for.